Again, thank you so much for joining us today to learn a little bit more about Columbia Business School. My name is Maura Bonini. I am a member of the admissions team here at CBS. I work as an assistant director of recruitment. So I spend most of my time doing really fun things like this, getting to chat with prospective students as well as connect with admitted students. I'm joined today by my colleague Tony. She will be moderating the Q&A box throughout the session. So if you do have any questions that come up, we will have time for 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. And Tony will pose those questions to us. So just any questions you have, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. I'm also joined by two of our fabulous living, breathing students who I'll spoil it because I was just so excited to hear. I've learned are on the same learning team, which is super exciting. And we'll talk more about what that means as the session goes on. But Sean, would you mind starting off just by introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is Sean. I am from San Diego. So before business school, I worked at a large pharma company doing drug development. And this summer, I interned at BCG, and post-graduation, most likely I'll return back to BCG.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hi,
Rachel?
everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. As Maura already mentioned, Sean and I are on the same learning team, and we're also very good friends. I am from New Jersey. My pre-MBA career was in ballet dancing, and then I started working in administrative side of Lincoln Center before getting my MBA. This summer, I was at Deloitte in consulting, and I will return the postgraduate from Columbia Business School. And it's great to meet everyone.
Awesome. I wish I could do the heart emoji as a webinar host, but I don't think I can. So sweet. I love to have some true friends on the presentation today. But we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to start by just giving a little bit of an overview of what the agenda is going to look like. We're going to start by talking about, just a little bit about CBS, kind of some general information. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the curriculum. We're going to talk about the access that you gain professionally from being in New York. We're going to talk about the community. And I think Rachel and Sean will have really great things to say about our dynamic community, it sounds like. We'll talk about some different resources that are available to CBS students. And then, of course, what I'm sure you're all very eager to hear about, we'll talk about next steps and the admissions process. So the first thing that I want to touch on quickly is just really some of the reasons why folks choose CBS. You can see that there are a lot of different areas that really make CBS unique, right? From our community and the network and alumni network of students to the location. There's a really just an amazing array of opportunities here at CBS that differentiate us from our peers. But I would love to just turn immediately over to Sean and Rachel and ask each of you to just in a minute or so share what specifically it was why you chose CBS. So whoever wants to go first is totally fine.
Yeah, I can go first. I think these are very comprehensive and cover a lot of probably what Sean and I will say. But for me, it was definitely a combination of the core curriculum and the location. I think you'll hear later CBS's core is fantastic, and it was all stuff I had never learned before, which is what was really appealing to me. And you take it all within your cluster system. And then obviously being in New York City, I had friends who were doing like banking recruiting, and it's so beneficial to just like zip down to Wall Street, have even like a 10-20 minute coffee chat, and then you just go back to campus. So I think the location can't be beat.
Thank you. Sean, what about you?
I was gonna say location. I think everyone says location, so I'll pick something different. I'll talk about the faculty and the network part. I think the faculty, we have a lot of like world-class faculty, and also a lot of them are adjunct professors who are working professionals either in the city or in the area, so they get to visit New York City like after work and then still be able to share their knowledge with students, which I think is super applicable to a lot of students who are recruiting, and that's helpful. And then on the network side, I think Columbia being the city, and then a lot of the alumni choose to live in the city. I think you get to network with them in person as well, which is super helpful. So I think those are the two biggest part of why CBS.
Awesome. Thank you so much both for sharing. And I'm sure we'll hear throughout the presentation even more reasons why CBS was the place that you ended up deciding to go. The next thing that I want to touch quickly on is our fabulous new Manhattanville campus. We relocated from the Columbia University main campus down in the in Morningside Heights to our new business school in Manhattanville, Harlem area. This opened in January of 2022. It's two buildings, they share a quad, and it's a really incredible space for students. One of my favorite things is below the buildings, there's a link that connects them. They are filled with lockers. So you'll see students during recruitment season pulling their suits out so they can quickly go and interview with a company and then coming back and putting on their gym clothes so they can go to rugby practice afterwards. It really is a very open community oriented environment. If you do have the opportunity to come and visit campus, I really encourage you to do so. It will really show you how the space is designed for collaboration. And we have a beautiful view of the Hudson River as well, which I love to point out and tell folks to go take some pics for the gram up on the 10th floor of Gravis. But one of the things that we really want to highlight as we're talking about CBS in general is really the school's priorities as we talk about the different programs and offerings that we have. You'll see that there are these 5 areas that CBS is really committed to, and they're going to showcase themselves in a variety of different ways as you navigate your CBS experience, whether that be through clubs or organizations you're taking part in, through some of the resources available on campus, through the classes that you're taking, through the guest speakers that come to speak. You're going to see all of these areas be really highlighted. The one that I really love to highlight up top is that driving the digital transformation of business. We know that AI and technology is changing so rapidly and really impacts a variety of different industries. So it's really important to us to make sure that students, no matter what industry they're going into, have a solid understanding of how AI, how technology is impacting those spaces. So even if you're taking a class in, for example, social entrepreneurship, there's still going to be some aspect of focusing on the digital transformation of that business. So didn't want to spend too much time here, but I encourage you as you're doing your research on the program to think about each of these different areas and see how you can see yourself incorporating them into your CBS experience. So we're going to pivot now into talking a little bit about the academic experience at CBS. So the first thing I want to highlight, there are many ways to achieve your MBA here at CBS. Now, I forgot to mention, but predominantly this presentation is going to be focused on the full-time MBA program. So either the August or the January entry, and we'll talk a little bit about those differences in a moment. But we also have a variety of other programs that are available for students if that's something you're interested in. So we have a lot of different opportunities for dual degrees. You can pretty much get a dual degree with any of the other Columbia University schools, but we do have 2 predetermined dual degrees, one with the law school as well as one with the School of Engineering. So the MBA XMS program and the JD MBA program are really great options if you're looking to expand your knowledge in a little bit of a different way. We have our deferred enrollment program. This is for folks who are currently in undergrad. So if you're a senior in college or you have a sibling, a cousin, a friend who's a senior in college, the deferred enrollment program might be a great way for them to go ahead and apply to CBS. You apply your senior year, you're either admitted or not. And if you're admitted, you work for 3 to 5 years and then come back and complete your MBA. So it's a great way to kind of just expedite that application process. And then we also have a few of our different executive MBA options. So these are for folks who are a little further along in their career paths. And while these programs aren't part-time necessarily, they are condensed to either be on Friday, Saturday, or just Saturdays. So this is for folks who are looking to stay in their current role and aren't necessarily looking to pivot. And then EMBA Global is our joint program with London Business School. This is a really incredible program. I actually got the opportunity to go to London Business School this last week and connect with the folks there. where the students doing MBA Global will do a month in New York at Columbia, a month in London at London Business School, and kind of throughout the 2 years do that. Now, this is obviously a very particular type of person and professional who can make this schedule work. But if that is something that interests you, I encourage you to look into it. And if you do have any specific questions about any of these alternate programs, we can connect you with a member of our team who can discuss them more in depth. But the first thing I want to kind of highlight here is the different entry points for the full-time MBA. So you can see we have our January and our August entry, right? So for August, you can see that regardless whether you're starting in August or in January, that first semester is going to be dedicated to the core curriculum. So you're going to be taking the same classes. You'll be placed in a cluster and a learning team, just like Sean and Rachel have already alluded to, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But you'll be going through those classes together, really to make sure that students, even if you're coming from a non-traditional business background, Rachel, just know that I will be using you as an example of someone coming from, I know you came from administration before, but before that, a ballet dancer. I obviously don't know what your undergraduate experience was in, but I can assume that you have been training very heavily as a ballet dancer for much of your life and maybe didn't have the opportunity to take as many business classes, although of course you could absolutely prove me wrong and be an incredible double major or whatever it is, and that's great too. But making sure that students that are coming from more non-traditional backgrounds are on the same playing field as students coming from those more traditional backgrounds, as well as those students getting to really hone in on their skills so that everyone is really prepared for those electives that really span over the rest of your time at CBS. So regardless, whether you start in August or in January, that core is going to be the first semester. Where you really see the difference in the two programs is during the summer internship. Okay, Rachel, good. I'm glad. I realized as I started saying that you had a non-traditional background, I was like, what if she doesn't? And I'm making assumptions, right? But that's great to hear. And I would love to pick your brain about that later. But that summer semester is really going to be the main difference, right? So you can see that for August, you do your first semester core, you take one more core class in the spring semester, and then start taking your electives. Whereas then you spend your summer doing an internship, right? And so these are usually 10 to 12 week summer internships. And the August entry has about 700 students starting during this time frame. Oops, excuse me. But then you can see that January, the summer semester, is only their second semester. So it's dedicated more to core and electives. And then the second year, everyone gets back on the same playing field, really filling that second year with lots of different classes, ranging in a variety of different topics for folks to focus in on. Now, the main difference between a student who would be starting in January and August is really to see if they feel that that internship would be necessary in helping them reach their goals, right? Now, for some students coming in from August, they may still be, for example, returning to their current company, or maybe aren't looking to pivot career paths, but still feel that an internship would be really helpful in helping them reach their goals. Whereas students in January are usually coming from backgrounds where they're not looking to pivot, they're coming from family business, or they're in the startup space. So they're really just looking to hone those business fundamentals. But that being said, there are still a lot of opportunities for in-semester internships, both for January and August entry. So if for whatever reason you decide to do January, but you still are looking to get some sort of alternative work experience, you absolutely will have the opportunity to do so, when you do that second year and take those in-semester internships. So please feel free in the Q&A to ask any clarifying questions about the difference between August and January. But really, if you walk away with nothing else, the main difference is going to be that summer semester where January students are on campus taking classes and August entry students are off around the world doing their internships, right? And we'll talk more about all of the electives and the classes and what they entail in the upcoming slides. But I wanted to highlight quickly, and I know Sean already talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to ask him to expand on it as well, about our faculty, right? So we have two different types of faculty here at CBS. We have our tenure track faculty. These are folks who are research focused, have either retired from their fields or have just really dedicated their lives to educating students, right? So these are really wonderful professors who are just really focused on sharing knowledge with CBS students. And then we also have 205 adjunct professors. Now, I think this is one of the really large benefits of being in New York, is the fact that we can have professors who maybe in the morning are working on Wall Street and then in the afternoon, evening, come up and teach a class, right? So these are folks who have real world experience currently in these various fields so that they can really give students that intersection of theory and practice. Sean, I'd love to hear about your favorite professor, whether that be a tenured faculty or an adjunct faculty, and what about them was your favorite?
That's such a hard question because I feel like there's so many professors I like. I think Professor Tajik, um, Moran Surf, who's in our core class, and then Mandini, I think his name, Operational Management. These are all great professors, but I think I'll expand on Professor Moran Surf. So marketing is one of our core classes, and like coming in, I didn't think I would like marketing, but I think the professor really made it super engaging. He used like these real world examples, and some of them are super new to really get our attention in class. And then also like outside of class, he also like shared his time with us. So like sometimes during lunch, we'll have a small group lunch together, talk to the professor about his research outside of classes. He's doing a lot of like neuroscience related research, which is very different from marketing. I guess somewhat related, but I think the professor, it shows that he really cares about students, not just like in class, but also like outside the classroom as well. I think the same can be said about like the other professors I mentioned as well. Like if students want to talk to the professor like in a small group setting or one-on-one, the professor always makes time for you to really, I don't know, chat about any real world problem you're interested in or their background. So I think the professors are really caring at CBS.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. I want to talk a little bit about the core curriculum. So you can see here all of these classes you'll be taking. I'm not going to get too in the weeds about pre-term versus full term, A term, B term, but just know that that first semester is really dedicated to making sure that students are taking these classes to be prepared for whatever electives they plan to take after. And then you can see in your second term, you take operation management, and then you start taking fully electives, which is really exciting and a great way for students to either explore new areas or focus in on an area that they're really passionate about. There is one thing that I'll mention before I want to ask Rachel a couple questions, but you as a student, if you do, for example, come from, a finance background and you are really not interested in taking corporate finance again, you can go ahead and take an exemption exam. So that way you can test out of any of these core curriculum classes. I really encourage students to try not to test more than 3 outside of there, because then you really don't get as much of an opportunity to collaborate with your cluster and your learning team. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Rachel. Would you mind explaining a little bit in more depth about the clusters, the learning teams, what that looks like, and maybe a little bit about your personal experience on the cluster and learning team coming from a non-traditional background?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Mara. I think so you're in obviously a class size of around 700 or so, and they get split up into individual clusters and they go along with the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E. They start at the beginning of the alphabet for August entry and the back of the alphabet for J term. So Z, Y, X, and so on. In your clusters, you take all of these core classes that are listed here, and then you have a smaller, maybe like 4 to 6 people learning team where you do all your homework and projects and like problem sets with. So that's why Sean and I know each other so well. We had the opportunity to do every problem set ever together for all of these core classes. I hope this gives people some like happiness. I had no background in any of these classes, and it's great to have a learning team because you have a diversity of backgrounds collaborating on things. So I think I hopefully was helpful, but it was great because Sean has a pharmaceutical background. One of our learning team classmates, he's more like a finance background. So it was helpful because we played on each other's strengths and we were able to, have a really successful, hopefully, semester together. Yeah, if there's anything else, please let me know. Any other
No,
questions?
that's great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that you really benefited from the cluster and learning team system. And I think you and Sean are a great example of the social side of it as well, right? You're really hanging out, I imagine, outside of class and really doing a lot of great things with your cluster and your learning team. So it's a great way, not only I feel to really get you on track academically, but also socially, right? I know Rachel, you said you were living in New York before. Sean, were you living? You mentioned it, but I forgot. Were you living in Boston before, or were you in New York?
San Diego.
Oh, duh. Okay, I knew
It's
that
okay.
because I love San Diego. Anyways, so obviously Sean is coming to New York for the first time. This learning team, I imagine, was a great way for him to kind of learn a little bit more about the city right off the bat. I wanted to highlight just quickly a little bit about the curriculum pathways. We have over 300 different electives that students can choose from. We also have these 17 different pathways. We don't have majors or tracks that you have to partake in, but if you were specifically interested in healthcare, for example, you really want to focus in on healthcare and learning about all the different ways that you can work in different pharmaceutical areas or management. You could pick a healthcare pathway. But you don't have to. You can also really go into the electives and say, okay, I'm going to try this class. I'm going to try this class and really pick and choose so you can create a really robust curriculum for yourself. Sean, do you have a favorite elective that you've taken at this point that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, I think my favorite elective, I think I briefly mentioned earlier, is probably organizational change. And I know Rachel took that class as well, but we're in different sessions. The professor is Todd Jick. I think org change is probably one of the most popular classes at CBS. It really teaches you organizations are constantly under like changes, as the title suggests. So it really tells you as the change leaders, how do you really implement these changes? Because there's a lot of human elements um, associated with that. A lot of like emotional intelligence. How do you communicate the changes? How do you um, work with different managers, different levels of people, stakeholders, and how to successfully implement these changes. And the class is involved is I think in the Q&A session, I saw a question like, is this like, um, forgot the exact word. Is it, Rachel, help me out here. Well, what is the like case based? Oh yeah, is it case based? Is it more
Mhm.
like
No, it's definitely case based.
yeah, so this class is case based. So you read a lot of cases beforehand to understand like before class you have to read a case to understand what the background is what the storyline is, and then in class you discuss as a whole on like the things that did well, things that didn't do well, and then what happened at the end. Super helpful class, probably one of my favorites. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to pivot into talking about just being in New York and what that provides for students professionally, both for networking and recruitment purposes. So this is just a slide to give a really good insight into some of the big household names that you're going to gain exposure to during your time at CBS. When you're in New York, many, if not all, of these companies have either main offices or at least some sort of headquarter here in New York, right? So because of that, students are really getting to take advantage of these companies and the reputation that CBS has with these companies because we've done such great work with them in the past. Many of these companies come to campus directly to recruit students, as well as having just our career management center does a great job of bringing new companies in. So this is just a really good insight into some of the companies that we've worked with in the past. I would absolutely encourage all of you to take a look at our employment report at some point just to get a good sense of directly the types of companies that students are going to post graduation. One of the other really wonderful things about being in New York is really having the access to a variety of different guest speakers. These are just some of the examples of folks who've come and spoken on campus. One thing I want to highlight is you can see that a few of these folks are alum and few of these folks aren't, right? So these are folks coming to really share their knowledge and expertise with Columbia Business School students. Rachel, do you have an example of a guest speaker that you have seen speak either in kind of a formal setting or even in a class? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my favorite class was this class called High Performing Nonprofits, which is very different than the class Sean just mentioned. It's in the social enterprise under the Tamer Center. If When Mara was talking about the different like focus areas, not majors, but like focus areas, mine's also like social enterprise. So in High Performing Nonprofits, it was a Thursday evening class, which every Thursday evening there was a guest speaker. So just to your point, Mara, about like being in New York City and taking advantage of the amazing people we have here, I'm going to just say that class had a guest speaker every single Thursday who was able to come to CBS after work. So I don't think I
That's
can name
great.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that's a good example of just, truly the unmatched access, right? Like what other school are you going to get someone coming in a different person coming in every Thursday? Like that's really iconic. So thank you so much for sharing that, Rachel. That's great. Next, we're going to talk about the community, which I think is maybe the most fun part of this conversation. We have over 80 different clubs and organizations at CBS. So you can see they're broken up into a few different categories, and students will take part in these in a variety of different ways. The professional clubs are obviously a really great opportunity for you to, connect with students who either have the same interest as you in terms of professional career trajectory, but also if maybe you're not interested in tech at all, but just want to know what's going on, you can join the tech club, right? There are some more identity-based organizations like our affinity clubs and international clubs, as well as some community service and social and leadership opportunities as well, right? So if you want to get involved and join the Financial Literacy Club or join the Harlem Small Business Coalition, you can, but you can also just join the rugby team, right? There's a lot of really incredible ways to get involved. Sean and Rachel, I'd love to hear from both of you. What are the other things you're involved with on campus outside of our fabulous Hermes Society, which I should have mentioned is our admissions club? So, of course, I encourage everyone to apply to Hermes when they get to campus. But Rachel and Sean, I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the other things you're involved with.
Yeah, thank you, Mara. I think so. Also, when you're a first year, you can apply to be an AVP, like an assistant vice president of any of these clubs, plus more. And then when you're a second year, you can run to be a vice president of the club. So I'm going to be a vice president of the Art Society, which is under social and athletic, and a vice president of Social Enterprise Club, which is under professional.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, so I'm part of or at least first year, I was part of the consulting club, which really helps you prepare for consulting recruiting professionally. And then I was also part of the Healthcare Industry Association, where there are a lot of mentorship between first and second year students, a lot of recruiting support as well. And then on the school side, we actually have healthcare pharmaceutical management program, which provide additional support on pharma recruiting, biopharma recruiting. And then on the fun side, I'm part of the Student Leadership and Ethics Board. So it's not really a professional club. It's a fun club where students talk about how to even how do I describe this? How to have strong moral and ethics values in corporate setting. It's like we do a lot of like drive growth, optimize value, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're doing it for the good of society as well. So
Wonderful. Thank you. That's great. You both are involved in an array of organizations, so I love to hear that. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about DE&I and, just inclusive leadership on campus. The Phillips Pathway for Inclusive Leadership is a co-curricular program that is specifically designed to really equip students with the essential skills for managing diversity and promoting inclusion in the workspace. There are a variety of different events that they host throughout the year. Students are required to go to one per semester, but based on conversations I've had with students, they go to far more than that. I've had the opportunity to go to a couple PPIL events, and they're really wonderful. I went to one that was called Traveling While LGBTQ, and it was really great hearing students share their experiences about what that's like. We'll talk a little bit more about the Phillips pathway for inclusive leadership when we talk about the essay questions, because we do have an essay question focused around this. But just want to highlight that, it really is incorporated into the curriculum at CBS, that students are learning how to be inclusive and diverse leaders, which is really important as we send out our future business leaders into the world. The next thing I want to highlight, and again, we'll talk more about this when we get to the kind of application component, is the Consortium for Graduate Study and Management. So there are 25 membership schools, and the mission of the consortium is to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion in MBA Global Business Education and Leadership. So it works similarly to the common application. If you applied to a school in the US, you might be familiar with the common application. So you can apply up to 5 schools, and then the application is sent to all of those schools. There is an additional essay. So it's really encouraged for students who have shown a really strong, dedicated commitment to diversity and inclusion in their workspace. And you will have access to the consortium fellows at other schools. So you'll have the opportunity to connect with consortium fellows all over the country. And there are additional funding opportunities for folks applying via the consortium as well. And again, we'll talk more about that when we get there, when we talk about the application process. This is a picture from our Manhattanville Community Day. This is a really great day where, our campus is open to the public in general. So during the summer, there's like a splash pad. You'll see kids playing in the water, riding their bikes. We really make a strong effort to become a member of the Harlem Manhattanville community by creating a lot of opportunities for small businesses to come onto campus. So during Manhattanville Community Day, there's a lot of local vendors that come to campus. There's an independent film festival that's specifically Harlem filmmakers that come to campus. It's a really, really cool day for not only our Columbia community members to, connect and chat and learn about each other, but also the broader Harlem and Manhattanville community. One area that I really love to highlight as we're talking about just our connection with Harlem in general, we do have our Columbia Harlem Small Business Development Center. This is one of my favorite things to talk about as someone who I live in Harlem. It's really important for me to see that Columbia is really contributing to the community. And this program has helped create over 5,500 jobs and worked with over 3,600 small businesses in Harlem. So, we really make a strong effort to connect with the community in a variety of different ways. And if you have any more questions about that, I'd encourage you to ask the students and learn a little bit more about how they kind of interact with Harlem. Now, the next thing I want to highlight is our alumni network, right? I know we've talked a little bit about this when we talk about the networking opportunities, but we have over 52,500 alumni worldwide and 80 alumni clubs worldwide. So not only as an alum, but as a current and even a prospective student, you're going to have the opportunity to connect with a variety of different alumni throughout your time, whether that be for, they're offering an internship to, let's say you're a part of the social enterprise club and someone is reaching out and saying, okay, we're looking for someone to do an internship that requires XYZ and a background in ballet. Rachel's going to go ahead and hop on there and say, okay, this is perfect for me. I want to take on this in-semester internship. But also as prospective students, you can reach out to alums and they'll be happy to talk to you. I encourage folks to, if as a prospective student, if you're reaching out to an alum, to make sure to be very specific in your questions and not just waste their time, of course. But then, of course, as an alum, you'll have the lifelong network and be able to connect with folks far after graduation as well. So that's definitely something to highlight there. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about before we dive into the application process, I'm trying to be mindful of time here, is our 2 main kind of resources on campus, the Office of Student Affairs. One thing that I want to highlight from the OSA is obviously they have a variety of different programming available for students. The thing that I like to highlight first and foremost is that you as a student are automatically assigned an academic advisor when you come in. So you can have someone who you can go to and say, okay, I've taken the core. I'm really not sure about my internship. I don't really know what types of classes I should be taking to reach my goals. They can really help you with that. And they have a lot of other really incredible opportunities as well. CBS Well is a great way to kind of help foster your mental, physical, emotional, and financial wellness. And they do a really great job of providing opportunities for students there. And then finally, the Career Management Center is a really incredible program. They have 13 different advisors, so that all focus in on one area. So, for example, if you're looking to go into tech, they're going to have an advisor specifically there to talk to you about the tech companies and the tech opportunities that are available to CDS students. And the other thing I want to highlight here is our Executives and Residents program. So, these are 27 different execs who come to campus to chat with students about their experience. And students can really gain a lot of insight and knowledge from these C-suite level execs, regarding their career trajectory, their personal life, anything like that. So Sean and Rachel, I'd love to hear one of you to share just one thing you learned, you've taken advantage of through OSA, and the other to kind of share one thing you've taken advantage of through the Career Management Center. And I think whoever goes first will get to pick which one they share.
All right, I guess I'm going first. Thanks, Sean. So I think as Maura mentioned, you have parallel paths, excuse me. So Sean and I both, our first parallel path was consulting, and we were extremely fortunate that it both worked out for us. My parallel path, which is not to say was like an unequal. I was, as Sean could attest, I was pursuing both actively, was in social enterprise and nonprofit leadership. So I think like one of the things, I mean, Maura mentioned some of these things, but the CMC, I had a meeting with one of the counselors, and he physically handed me a newspaper of all the top nonprofits and were like, here are the alumni network from CBS that works here. So I think that was incredibly helpful, in addition to, as Maura mentioned, like I think I got at least a 90% response rate to cold emails from CBS alumni they were like, oh, it's a CBS person, of course I'll respond. So I just wanted to highlight those two aspects.
Thank you.
Awesome. Do I have to talk about the previous slide, the OSA side?
Yes, OSA, just, anything you've kind of taken advantage of from the Office of Student Affairs throughout your time at CBS.
Yeah, I think OSA, so like Maura mentioned, OSA has academic support, so you can talk to your advisor about, thank you, yeah, advisor about like which classes to take, which track to do, but also I think OSA also has I think like the slide mentioned, a lot of student life engagement part. OSA hosts a lot of these events on campus, and I remember during like finals week, everyone is in the middle of like recruiting, and also we have exams coming up. So we had I think the students brought like cookies on campus, and there was also like service dogs, so help students de-stress during a very, very stressful time.
Yes, having puppies and dogs on campus is always a great way to decompress. Now I'm going to give Rachel and Sean a little bit of a break because we're going to dive into kind of these next steps area. The first I'm going to just quickly talk about, again, I know that I want to be sensitive of time and make sure that we get some questions answered. So obviously you're most likely thinking about how you're going to fund your MBA experience. You can see here that, first of all, the financial aid office is available if you have any questions throughout your application process or as a current student. We have funding that's both merit-based and need-based institutional funding. These range from $25,000 to full tuition every year. Every single student is automatically is evaluated for merit-based funding. That being said, priority is given to August round 1 and round 2 applicants. Does not mean that if you apply in January or round 3 that there is no funding available, but most likely it's much, much more limited, and you're automatically considered. Now, for need-based institutional funding, you do need to fill out a separate need-based application. I encourage everyone to fill this out if you think you're going to qualify or not, because this is really going to be a great way to kind of support your MBA experience. And then there are, of course, loans and external resources available, including external scholarships. And I encourage you all to check out the financial aid office's website to learn more about these things. But now let's talk about the application process. Now I'm going to spend some time on here, but I also, am going to just, really, if you walk away from nothing else from this presentation, I really encourage you to just take a deep breath. This is a fun opportunity to learn more about yourself. It's obviously stressful, But I hope that today you can see that we are truly looking at so many different aspects of your application, right? I've worked in higher ed for a long time, and every school I work at says that we review applications holistically. This is the first school where I feel that we truly are evaluating all of these different components to see if you'd be a good fit at CBS. Now, obviously, my main goal as an admission officer is to make sure that you're going to be academically successful in the classroom, right? So the first thing we're going to look at are these academic areas. But that being said, we know that we're going to get a good sense of your academic readiness in these other areas as well. But we do require your undergraduate transcript or record, as well as we do require the GMAT, the GRE, or the executive assessment. We truly have no preference on exams. So take whichever exam you feel you're going to do the best on and go from there. I encourage you to maybe take a practice test of each, see how you feel. But again, we have no preference on exams. So whatever you feel confident sending in, please go ahead and send that in. The next thing we're going to look at is obviously your professional promise. This is an MBA program. So we're going to take a look at your resume. This is really just, kind of, I encourage students as they're working on their resume, revamp it a little bit for the MBA application, right? I always joke, like we think we know what consultants do. I'm just joking. We know what consultants do, but like you don't need to be listing exactly your job responsibilities, right? We have an understanding of what that is. What we're more interested in is how you specifically have contributed to these roles during your time at these different companies, right? So what projects have you taken on? What leadership positions have you taken on, right? So don't be afraid to dive a little bit deeper into the resume there. The second thing we require is one letter of recommendation. Only one will be utilized as an evaluative factor in the application. Any additional letters of support will just be used as giving additional context. They will not be utilized as an evaluative factor. Now, that being said, this letter of rec, we do want to come from either a current supervisor, but we recognize that sometimes maybe you just switched projects, maybe your previous supervisor knew you much better. We just want to make sure it's someone who's seen you in a supervisory capacity. And for folks coming from the startup space or family business, a stakeholder in the company is a good option there. As much as we love mom and dad, we doubt that they would give you an unbiased letter of recommendation. So for family business, just make sure to ask a client or something like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the short answers and the essay questions on the coming slides. But I do want to take a minute to talk about the interviews here. They really ride the line between the professional and the personal side of things. Your interview is conducted virtually by either a current student, an alum, or a member of the admissions staff. So it's not completely random because it's pretty much based on scheduling. So I wouldn't say it's random, but there's no like really rhyme or reason why you would get a student versus an alum or anything like that. It's truly based on scheduling availability. And it's just an opportunity to get to know you better, right? I conduct the interviews. I like to think I'm not a scary vampire. And I think it gives you a good insight as to what the other interviewers are like as well, right? We just want to learn a little bit more about your professional background and who you are as a person. And kind of speaking to who you are as a person, we also love to see your extracurricular activities that you were involved with either as a college student or beyond. And essays number 2 and 3 focus a little bit more on the personal side as well. So you can see here we have 2 short answer questions, whether you apply in January or in August. The first one is the same for both. What is your immediate post-MBA goal? You can see it's 50 characters. So you just have to say, I want to return to Deloitte after graduation or whatever it may be, right? That's all you have to put there. Don't overthink it too much. And then for January, you say, why would you prefer the January term? So essentially why you're choosing to forgo that summer internship. And then for August, how do you plan to spend that summer? If it's an internship or something else, just sharing a little bit of information there. Now, the essay questions are pretty robust, but you can see they're not that robust, right? The biggest one is 500 words. So we do not expect you to fit your life story into 500 words, right? If we did, we'd give you a higher word count. So I really encourage you to focus in on answering the questions at hand. So essay number 1 is really talking about your goals, next 3 to 5 years, as well as your long-term dream job. And I encourage you to really think about how an MBA specifically is going to help you achieve those goals, right? So really, if you spend some time on this essay, do some reflection. And I'm not going to come knocking on your door your second year if you said you wanted to go to consulting and then you decided your internship was not the right fit for you and you're pivoting to social enterprise. I don't care ultimately. We really want to make sure that you are prepared to come into the MBA. Obviously, it's a time of exploration, but have an understanding of how to make these goals and what you think might be achievable for you post graduation. Essay number 2 is again focusing on that Phillips pathway for inclusive leadership. So they have these 5 inclusive leadership skills that they really focus in on. So one of the essay options is to describe a time or a situation when you felt the need to utilize one of these 5 skills and how you navigated the situation. Or you could share specifically about a time how you made a team more collaborative or fostered a greater sense of community within an organization. This is again just an opportunity for us to get to know you better. So there's no right or wrong answer here. I really encourage students never feel like you have to share anything you don't want to share here. It's only 250 words, but we encourage you to be as open and transparent as possible for us to just get to know you a little bit better. And then essay number 3 is how would you co-create your optimal MBA experience at CBS? So this is really about that research, and you're already doing it. You're coming to events like this, but as you continue through your path, really thinking about why CBS is a good fit for you.